It's, it's getting close. Let's call this meeting to order. Once y'all stand and join me in the pledge, y'all, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all for joining us tonight. Sorry for the delay, but just a little thing that we had to wait for an IEC code, make sure that we was compliant, so that's why we started at 5:20 tonight. So anyway, why don't we go ahead and get started with the approval of the minutes from the meeting in June? Discussion, changes? You made a motion to approve? Okay, motion to approve June's meeting made by Andy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Todd, second. Okay. So Andy made a motion to approve the minutes of June 14th. Todd seconded that motion. All in favor, please raise your hands. 5.
I wasn't here. I'm saying.
2 abstain. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, would you pass that to Todd, please? I think you and I have to sign. Okay. First, I'm going to kind of change the agenda, just tweak it a hair. Before we're going to old business, we have a young lady here, Sarah. Yes, I think you want to address this real quick over this, and then we'll get you moving on.
I'll be fast.
Okay.
I'm on the board of regional planning. I've been on the board for a long time. And they gave me this report for Switzerland County. Does everybody have that? It's, guys, anyway, it lists the stuff that they've been working on and the money they've gotten for the county. And they left off, they're working on a historic Hoosier Theater for historic restoration or preservation grant too. And I'm basically here to answer any questions you have about what they do. Just want to let you know, you do pay them for services as, I think it's maybe $5,000 a year. And when they write these grants, they don't get paid until they get the grant. So if they don't get the grant, they don't get paid. So you're paying for this service that brings in, I think they're up to like $285 million for the region. They do a lot of money stuff, so. Any questions? It's mostly infrastructure stuff. They're long-term grants and large funding, sewer, water, that kind of stuff.
All the money coming in the hill.
There's a lot of money. Yeah. And I'm here for the commissioners. I mean, I'm on the board for the commissioners, but I do go to all the meetings because I'm working in the office there. And so if you guys want me to, if there's something that looks good for Switzerland County, should I just send it to Gail? Or
you can send it to me and I can get it out to you.
Okay, because sometimes stuff happens. I'm working on something. I'll come back later to talk to you about it when I get further along, but it could be a good planning. Okay, so if you have any questions, just. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. All righty. Okay, we will go ahead now and go to old business. Now, first thing on the old business agenda is basically it was last month, we had a discussion about some of the mistakes that was made, and big key was the overpayment to an individual, and there is an Indiana code out there. I got Indiana code 22.-2-4-6-4. Thanks for that correction. And it basically tells us how we can, what we do, what the procedure is to fix and remedy problems. And I just want to touch base on that. Is there any discussion from anybody on that topic there?
So in reading this, and Pat, thanks for coming tonight. So in reading this ordinance was in play. It's not ordinance, it's an IC code. Blessed by the state assembly. So what it basically covers in our discussion last month was there are rules, you put a formula together, the formula then tells you when that individual or entity has to pay us cash back. That's the way I understand this. Pat, have you read that rule?
The statute, yes.
So we had, in our discussion, we had a situation where we had an employee that was paid over $1,300. By rule, it says $500 or more, we have to self-report. And then we have to follow that rule. And I know that Gail didn't know that there was a rule out there. I wasn't really sure there was a rule
I didn't
anyway.
know.
I was on.
Until
Is that, I have a question on that 500, is that a monetary?
it is set unless the county creates an ordinance less than $500.
Monetary, is it actual cash or is it just on paper?
Cash.
Okay, so
Whatever we overpay.
well, I mean, there was no cash actually. I'm just,
Yeah, but a check is cash.
well,
A check is
Okay.
cash.
yeah,
It's money, monetary.
I know it's money, but I'm wanting, I can't remember how we put that in the.
Numeration, new materiality, including numeration.
So the only question I have on that, because it clearly states what the rule is. Did we go back, now that we know that there is an IC code, did we go back and make sure that the $1,300 fits the rule of 22-2-6-4?
From what I read, it does. You can't just go in there and take the full amount of what they owe. You have to do the calculation.
You feel like it did? That's great.
I mean, really, I mean, we can't, the council can't make the rule and what we need to go by as far as the county, the commissioners need to go by that, but I mean, she's paid everything back. Well, she'll pay it back next week, and that'll be it, it'll be over with, but.
It'd be all
I mean-
cleaned up next week, so, yeah.
mhm.
All right.
Basically, know there is an IC code and a rule on how to do things. And it's a learning process.
That's
for
an initial
everybody.
learning process.
I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't know there was an IC code for it.
it is. I mean.
I mean,
I'm
why
learning
would you
something
until
every
the
day.
situation arises, you know,
Yeah.
you can't learn them all. No, do
All right.
you feel any different? That it was, I mean, from what you read,
This code section, it falls under a specific chapter. So if you look at the top there, it says chapter wage deductions. And so this whole chapter, what it's primarily focused on is protecting employees' paychecks from over deduction. That chapter includes other things like taking wage deductions if
the
there's
judgment.
other judgments owed, things of that nature. This actually outlines that it's not technically a wage deduction, but it provides similar limitations on how much you're allowed to take out of the employee's check for the repayment. And it's set up as a limit on, making sure that people basically don't go broke on having to
Right.
make the repayment.
Yeah, you don't want to.
We all good on that? I think we should be. So, okay. We'll keep on moving on in old business. This is the additional appropriation funding for the judge for his fund. What is 136-438, that line, at amount of $35,000. Where do we start?
I'll start. We did do the judge, well, we asked the judge to come several times. And he did not felt like he needed to come before the council to explain why he needed an additional appropriation. That was his findings, because it's something that needs to be paid. And there's no question about that whatsoever. It definitely needs to be paid. And it's something that's really not even in his control. It has to do with the juvenile detention. And he called, so he asked us to come to a meeting. So 3 of us did go to a meeting to hear the judge's reasons, because it's important to know. It is also important that we set a rule in January that anyone that asked for additional appropriations, and we voted, it was a unanimous vote on this board, that someone asks what's additional appropriation, they're supposed to come and explain to us why. That's our job, to track every dollar that's spent in this county. And I think that's something that needs to be done every time. In this situation, where the department head did not want to come and explain their reasoning, Three of us went and heard his reasoning, and it made complete sense. Actually, the juvenile probation officer explained most of it, and it made complete sense as to why they need the money. It would have been a very, very simple process for her to have come or for the department head to have come and told us that here. It would have been over with in January, if not February, because but it's mainly a procedural part. In my mind, it's just a procedural thing that process should have gone out the right way, which this did not. But I do understand why they needed the money. And it has to be paid. They have bills. We have to pay our bills. We do have to pay our bills.
But he did explain to you why.
He did explain why. My only problem that I have is that it wasn't done the way that we set the rule to be. We said that if you need an additional appropriation, anybody in any office needs to come and tell us why they need that additional appropriation so that we understand. There's so many times, there's been transfers, where you transfer within your own fund. It's pretty simple for us. They have the money already. They're just transferring it because they're under in somewhere and they need money, transferred within their own budget. But this was an additional appropriation out of the general fund. So I felt like we deserved to hear that.
Did he give a reason why it wouldn't come?
Yeah, the reason why, we did ask him in the meeting to come, and he refused. And it was basically, he felt disrespected by our board. And
I think you need to set that aside and still come.
well, you do. And I felt like we set aside the fact that you're asked to come to explain and you don't want to, that three of us set it aside and went and listened anyway, because I didn't feel like it was my place when that meeting went out. I thought, okay, I can go that day and I'll go and I'll listen to him. I know that we went to his office to listen. And I felt like to refuse to go would be doing the same thing that he was doing to us. And that didn't feel any more right than, I just felt like I was doing the same thing. Felt like I was doing the same thing that he was doing to us, which I felt like was disrespectful to us.
Our good.
And he felt like we were being disrespectful for him by asking him to come. So really, I think it's a miscommunication, and I think it's kind of sad. And I don't think it should ever be that way with any department head that we have. We don't mean it, and I don't mean it in a mean way whatsoever. I know that council doesn't. It's doing our job of being responsible for every dollar that's spent in this county. And I think that it's kind of a sad situation. Even though I know he needs the money, I thought that.
Well, I think we need to put it to rest.
We do. I think we need to put it to rest and move on, but I still think that when someone had asked for an additional appropriation, they should be responsive to telling us why.
That brings up another discussion that we may need to revisit. So if we set this in January, but then again, we went to that person instead of them coming to us, should we revisit this and have more discussion about, is there certain times when it's not, it's not necessary for them to come to me to ask for additional appropriations? I mean, we basically opened the door for others to.
I'd like to discuss that too. You guys want to settle this one first and then we can talk about that?
Yeah,
I think we should.
Because the end result is we gotta give it the money.
Right.
So, in conclusion, what you said.
But we didn't get the information until after a mandate was done, and it should have been the other way around. If he asked for the money, if we said no, then you can mandate, but you don't make a mandate and then tell you why.
I know.
So it was done backwards. So in my opinion, that was his bad, not our bad.
It was.
So we don't let it happen again.
So, but that to me, it's just kind of done backwards.
You're right. We have to pay this. I think I counted 6 times that this council formed at a regular meeting. The last one being June, where Andy made a motion, hey, if he's not here, he needs to show up. And then 4 days after that meeting, he files a mandate that says you have to come. He goes on vacation, he comes back 8 days later and says, whoopsie, I made a mistake. I'm supposed to show up in front of you, now you come to me. But looking back on all of this, folks, we do have a hand in the mistake.
We did.
And it came from, and I think from my point, we said we wanted the judge here. And there's been a meeting that the county, the taxpayers, never privy to. So you have an audio of that. I think that audio should be put out on the website so our taxpayers hear exactly what happened in that meeting. That's public access.
Okay.
There is a rule for public access in the appropriations. When you're supposed to come, that's why it says Rule 60, that's the one that sent the email to us stating, no, the judge should be coming to you as a party prior to him filing the mandate. Did I understand that correctly, Pat?
The trial rule 60.5 says prior to issuing the order, the court shall meet with the mandated party to demonstrate the need for said funds. The dilemma with the rule is that it's not specific about who, what, where, when, how, why, but at least it does require it.
Okay, so it does require the meeting for an explanation, not to us as the body of council, to the taxpayers. Why are we over budget? What happened? But now, because of the what do I want to say? Because we have a trial, a transcript, and you go through that transcript, the error occurred in December of last year. The error was simply this, and I gave Andy the code.
Mhm.
It's out there. There's a budgetary code that says if you're going to carry bills over from this year's budget into next year's budget, you are required to let this body know. At which time the auditor, wasn't Gail at the time, it was Yvette, must get on Gateway. And if we approve it, an emergency appropriation is carried over. In this case, the judge was carrying over $20,000. He had a budget of $25,000 for 2023. But we didn't know he had a $20,000 bill because the judge in his file to you three came out and said, I didn't come. And you said in that statement, we got bombarded with appropriations. And he says, I know, that's why I didn't come. That's not a choice. That's an IC code. That's an Indiana code. And so what takes place is he gets his $20,000 in bills at the beginning in the first quarter, and we pay them. We pay those bills, so his $25,000 for 2023 immediately drops to $5,000 by April. By May, he's sending us a request without any type of understanding as to what it is other than juvenile detention for $35,000. If you do the math on this, folks, the math comes out that right now the judge should have, if he would have told us about the 20,000, had we filed with Gateway and done it to the way that the state has it out there, he'd still have money left in his account. But then go further, the judge says later in your meeting, if this happens again this year, I still won't come. And we didn't say anything in that meeting about that. You have to tell us what the bills are. That's our job. As a fiscal body, it's our job to understand what bills and how much money we're carrying over. That's the right of the taxpayer. It's not any one department. It's not, as you just said, strong arming. These are the Indiana codes of this county. And they're adopted by the state assembly. We don't make these rules. We follow these rules. And Gail's probably right. We don't know every code. We don't. But to the Gateway, before you sign off on that last sheet in Gateway for the year, you're supposed to say if you have any knowledge of any bills that are carried over. We didn't have knowledge of this.
No, but we knew that. We do now, but.
We do.
It
We
would
do.
have, but it
What
would
I'm
have been
saying is,
very, very simple. done
what
right.
concerns me is that the judge told the three of you, if this happens again this year, I'm gonna do it again. Okay, let's just fix that part. If any department has bills that are gonna carry over that we know we owe, you need to come to us and tell us. This isn't subjective to who you are what level of authority you are or what department you are.
I don't know if it was really necessary in carrying over. Maybe that's what he said was carry over, but I interpreted it as more like there's always a lag in bills. It's like we don't get the January bill for electricity. It was February, December, right? And that's when it comes to January. I mean,
And that's why we're supposed to tell, Gail can't know what every department does or what bills they have. There's no way she would know.
Right.
That's why you're supposed to, at the end of the year, that's why our last meeting was appropriations, $80,000 in appropriations. Some things that we did and didn't know about,
Exactly.
because the department head's supposed to tell the auditor what bills are gonna carry over so that we're aware of them. And then we stamp that, but as we
I'm
did.
not so sure that they had the bill in January.
Right.
and
It's
December.
like electric.
Because like some people don't send their bills on time,
At least I'm not qualifying whether
Yeah.
he did have the bills.
yeah,
In his statement that's recorded,
yeah,
he says, I knew
yeah.
that I had
They
20,000.
knew it was coming. It's like they knew that they had
That's the
that,
part that we have to.
like 5,800 getting ready to come from Knox County. And it wasn't there yet, but they knew they were about to get them.
Right.
They had
That, I'm like,
2850 that
Reason I
they
asked
knew
you-
was coming from Clark.
you're the guy. You're the reason we pay county attorneys. And
No.
then are we looking at this the right way?
It's a great question, and I've actually begun the investigation. I've been in contact with the State Board of Accounts. I've been in contact with Gail. I actually followed up with the judge's office today, and the explanation was very much that the bills were for December, but not issued until January. And I'm following, the State Board of Accounts had some additional questions for me, and I'm following up with them, because, I mean, I agree, doing it right. But I mean, it is an odd question. Does a bill count if it hasn't yet been received? Whereas if you know that you've got juveniles out there who are being housed, and so a bill is coming, but you don't receive the bill for the amount.
Mhm.
It's an interesting question, and I don't, Matt, as of right now, I don't know the answer, but I'm investigating.
When you and I talked, I said, that the way that this reads, it appears that we're supposed to know of everything. So I guess we wait for you to hear back from the State Board of Accounts.
Yeah, they threw a whole new thing at me called encumbrances that I was looking into.
But
Yeah.
see, if he had 20,000 left in his account at the end of the year, and he just had a bill for 20,000 is what you're saying, because I haven't listened to the transcript of the hearing, so I don't know. But he would have not necessarily, I don't know, I guess I'm confused on.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I think if you
That's
had
what I'm
20,
thinking, it should have been an encumbrance, because that's what you asked me about.
but I don't think he had anything in the account.
Didn't really have anything, the money wasn't sitting in his fund account, in the general ledger account. He just knew he had a $20,000 bill that was coming.
And again, the way I'm
Right?
reading
Is that what he said? There wasn't actually
Well,
money
yeah,
sitting.
they got a bill for
20,000.
2023, that they didn't get it until 2024. And so the budget that we had for the 25,000 was not enough to cover what
That
they had
bill.
going on for
So
2024.
in that case, he wouldn't have, I mean, you would have had to go back and redo his whole budget. It wouldn't have been about an appropriation or anything. Well,
But he needed,
No.
if we would have had to do the
He
appropriation.
had the money in that budget. He had the money there. He just didn't receive the bill. And I agree with Pat. That's what we're looking at here. He did know about it because he says he knew about it. If we could have filed, and it's chapter 9, on your gateway form that you would fill out. It's chapter 9. It says emergency appropriation.
He would
You
have,
carry over the budget money that was what you appropriated for 2022. It would have carried over into 2023.
if there was any money left. in that.
Okay.
Right? I mean,
That's the-
because if there was money left in that, then that's when it would become an encumbrance.
it usually
You
gets
know,
all the
'cause-
money back at the end of the year
Yeah.
that's left over.
And that's what I told Pat, the only encumbrances that I've done this year is for the highway department, and that's because of how their money comes in, but
Okay.
that's what I've, okay. So we had a bill in 22, didn't get paid till 23, and he used up all of his money, and
Yeah.
That's where we are today.
And that's what we're with that.
So I guess, as I said, if you're
Yeah, I'm gonna keep
talking
taking.
to state board, then we'll wait for you. I'll wait for you to.
It makes sense, but I still think we need to follow the process of them coming and telling us instead of us going for months fighting about it, basically. And I just,
Well,
because it's,
in
it's
this
very
case,
simple. They need it,
the
period. It's just the
juvenile
process.
probation officer, she could have came to our meeting as well.
Easily.
I mean,
Yeah, she was very, very,
It could have been handled a lot better than what it was
yes,
all the way.
yeah, from both
And
sides,
both
both
sides.
sides.
I don't know how we could, Randy, if we asked for him to come 6 times,
I did.
I mean, I don't think anybody was arguing.
No.
I wasn't arguing the point that we would have voted for it. It's the simple fact that the rules are the rules, and it says, just come and explain. That, I mean, as I said,
You're right.
I can go all the way up to the last meeting where Andy made the comment, just motion it until he comes. And it was the right motion. It was.
Okay.
so the question is, he still needs the money, whether it was handled correctly or not, which obviously it wasn't for me to say. He's gonna need the money. He's got a $5,800 bill that needs to be paid. So are we just gonna allowing?
I'm
Okay.
gonna go ahead and make a motion for appropriate $35,000 to the juvenile detention.
Has this been posted or advertised yet? This appropriation?
The only one that I have is the original and it got, no, I have not advertised any of those.
And you have to by code.
By code.
You have to give 10 days to the taxpayer to show, we did that with the office supply. So, March 16th, she filed,
I mean, I
you
can
you
advertise.
filed
but I
it,
just
right? You
didn't-
said we were gonna vote on it on April 12th at the meeting. That's the rule, you have to do that.
Yeah, but she wouldn't advertise it until after we voted on it.
No, you can't, it's not a vote. You say you're going to vote on this at the next meeting. That's what her, you
Okay.
can go back and look at the office supply one, but she did it exactly the right way.
So is it, since this mandate's been enforced, is there a different way to handle this? What will happen to that case? Will it just go away kind of sort of if we do?
Well, yeah, my guess would be that the mandate will get dismissed. I mean, like, and that's something, I mean, I'm happy to talk to the judge about that. But I mean, it's, because I mean, the whole purpose of the mandate is just for the funds, so.
Right.
But in the end, before we even move on this, it's got to be advertised in the paper and posted, correct?
Wasn't it advertised the first time?
Yes,
It's the same request. It's already been advertised.
No, the first time he made a mistake on the request. He asked for it for office supply.
It
Yep.
had an office supply up in
That's right. It didn't get reposted after the juvenile.
until that day. He sent
He
it in.
requested it incorrectly.
This needs to be re-advertised.
We're gonna have to have a special meeting for this.
you can do a special meeting or you can do it at the next regular meeting.
Yeah, we can't wait that long. Right? You said he's got
Yeah, he's
money
got a
due.
bill that I got last week.
Well, let's give him the money for that bill.
Should we just pay the bill? We vote to just pay the bill?
I mean, we can vote.
You're still
mean, he
doing-
can-
You're still doing additional appropriation. It's just.
He can pay the bill and it go into the next.
I don't think we can pay the bill.
Okay.
Yeah, if you feel this hasn't been properly advertised, I'll.
No, it has not because it was,
Or send them-
and I have not, I didn't know if I should or shouldn't because of the mandate.
Okay.
That's just what we did last month.
I didn't know.
Okay, so we should,
Okay. We gotta move on this fast.
So I'll advertise it in the paper and then it has to be
10 days, right?
10 days. And then I can,
Just look at the calendar. Be moments, folks. 10 days?
10 days when the paper comes back.
No.
No, see, this is Wednesday,
10
so
days.
it can't come out till next
We
Thursday.
have to do that.
Be posted in the morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
it can't post until the paper comes out.
she has to post it. in-
We need to have legislation to fix this business, because I asked some people at the state about this before. What if you lived in a town that didn't have a newspaper?
There's a
Why
rule
can't
for
you
that.
just post it?
There's
Why
a
can't
rule
you
for
just
that.
put it on Facebook? Why can't you just put it on your county's webpage? That they have to wait for your newspaper that doesn't come out until Thursday of next week, a week from tomorrow. It's really ridiculous
They
to
do.
have to post that way in a newspaper. And there are some towns that don't have a newspaper.
And Lisa, in the
This is a
IC
whole-
code, they address that.
Yeah, this is an old rule that needs to go away. It's a little, it needs to be revised. It needs to be made up into the modern age. Because waiting on your newspaper, if you have one. Rising Sun, do they have a paper still?
Oh, they're changing
All right, theirs will be ours.
We'll see. I mean, but there are some towns that don't have a newspaper. So what do they do?
We can't vote on this till 10 days after Thursday. Next Thursday.
Let's do that the next week.
That is true.
Sorry, I didn't know.
No, that's, I'm just concerned about outstanding bills right now, and maybe I shouldn't be, but, you know. But,
You know what?
You know,
They wait for a month and a half to send them to you, the bill, so they can wait for a month and a half to get paid.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. This is,
Yeah, do it right.
Do you know if does the bill have like need to be paid within 30 days? Usually when you get them, you usually got 30 days or 60 days to pay the bill usually. But they wait so long to send it to you, then they want you to immediately pay it. And normally you could immediately pay it if the money was in the account.
okay. All right, Gail, please get it posted. We'll have to do it next meeting. And then,
Well, you gotta have Lance withdraw his motion.
yeah, he
too.
did,
That's all he did.
yes, I'm sorry, yes. Yes, let's just go with next meeting. And, that's the best we can do. That'll be one of the first things we take care of in the August meeting. Everybody cool with that?
Good.
Good with it?
Under old business, I'd like to discuss the requirements for these additional appropriations that we made for the January meeting. Which, you know, we for years had people tighten their budgets up. And so only ask for what you really need. And then so by default, December is going to be a month that, hey, we ran a little bit short. There's going to be appropriations in December. I think it's something we have to prepare ourselves for. We had several this past December. And I think our response to that was to require the department heads to come every time they wanted something. But looking back on this, I think there might be some scenarios where that's not really reasonable. Department head can't make it due to an emergency. They can't physically come to our meeting because of an emergency, or maybe they just don't want to come to our meeting. There's no statutory requirement that they have to come. Obviously, we're finding that out. I mean, there is on a mandate for a judge, but other department heads,
I think
there's not.
So when we
I think
when we voted unanimous to have them come before us for an additional appropriation, isn't a statute?
Yeah,
That's what I'm addressing here. I want to, I think the main thing the council needs is the information from the department. You know, what line item is it for, the amount needed, the reason for the overages? And I think it'd be good to have the best person to ask questions to, who to call, who to email, right? That's the main things. With that being said, I feel like we could do a deal where we have that information. If it's an item in the general fund, not salary, if it's under $10,000, I feel like we can vote on it without them here. They certainly are welcome, but if they can't make it, it's not a requirement.
If they've given us the information.
Yeah, absolutely.
So would they fill out a form and present it to us or what?
However, the information gets relayed to Gail, and I think it needs to be to Gail in a timely manner so that if we have questions, we got time to call them and ask them. That's the main thing, is getting the information. I'm okay with a new form. I'm okay with just more information in the email, but I think that there should be, I think we overshot this a little bit. I think making everybody have to come might cause more problems than what it could help.
And I agree. I looked at some other counties, and other counties do things similar to what Lance just said. Some of them says a dollar amount limit where they're not required to show up for the meeting. They can just submit either a form that's signed by the courts and county, or they can submit an email with all the detailed information.
And give us an opportunity to ask questions, so you don't submit it the night of the meeting, so
Right,
that
like
you want us to vote on it the night of the meeting.
Yeah.
Or just laying in front of,
Which I
that's
think-
what I always hated, and then we started with it. There for a short stint, everybody was putting descriptions at the bottom of the additional appropriation.
Yeah.
That kind of went the wayside, I don't know where that ever went, but.
So what if it's over 10,000? Gotta go.
I mean, that was a number I tried to, because a lot of the departments, I mean, they might just say 1,500 bucks on something. I know like Brian's got a big department, jail and judges, they have large budgets on them, but some of these are just small, and
And we've never had a problem with any of them. We've never had a problem with that. In the years past, somebody's had a $1,500 or $1,000 or whatever additional appropriation, which there's always additional appropriations at the end of the year if you're budgeting close. If you're not overshooting your budget, you're gonna have additional appropriations every now and then. It's just the way that it is. And I would rather have it that way than have them inflate their budgets where we can't get a balanced budget because they have it inflated too much, because that happened for a long time. But we already, without the information, I'm not gonna vote on $1,500 to go to somebody either. I don't care if it's below
I think
10,000.
there-
And I don't know what it's for, I'm still not gonna vote for it.
I agree, you gotta have the information. I think there was some that came
You're
in.
talking about the ordinance that we put together, right?
I'm wanting
Is that what
to,
you're addressing?
I'm wanting to amend the motion we made in January. I think we made it too difficult. Good intentions, but I think.
And hopefully now what we're doing.
How is it too difficult? You asked for you're $2,200 over budget, so you asked for 35,000. I'm gonna question that.
Yeah, I don't think it was difficult.
I don't think that that's difficult. I don't think it's asking too much of anybody. You're $2,200 over your budget, so therefore give me 35,000, and then you tell me it's office supplies when it really isn't even for office supplies. That's not inappropriate for us to ask that question. It's our responsibility to ask that question. So I don't agree with that at all. I think that if you're gonna ask for more money for something that you're out of your line item budget, especially 2 or 3 months into the year, then you need to be explaining why. And I don't care who you are, and I don't care how much it is. That's just,
Lisa,
That's just
I
a
don't disagree with what
responsibility.
you're saying either, but I do want to make a point. I disagree with the comment. I know we keep a tight budget, but in this case, because it's this case, it could be any other case. The judge was carrying, last year, we paid out almost 60 grand. He cut his own budget back to 25. We got to catch that in the budget. We can't, if you don't set a budget and manage a budget to a number that you've already paid and you've already paid. As much as it's tough to say, yeah, we should put that 60 out there, and the judge qualified that in 19, I didn't pay that much. In 21 was the COVID year, but in 22, you did pay 60. 60 should be your baseline for your budget starting into the
Yeah.
next year.
he
Not 50.
he won't make that mistake
No,
again, I don't think.
Well,
And he
I don't
explained
know that
to
that was
us.
just his mistake. I
I don't see it that way, because he didn't get the bills till late in the year.
Well, that, and then there's been a
He knew he
huge,
paid 20, he knew he paid 60. in
there's been a
2020.
huge change in the juvenile, in the system too. Used to be that you would have somebody that had to go to the juvenile detention thing and 3 or 4 days, and then the state takes over. And once the state takes over, then we don't pay for that anymore. And that used to happen like that regularly. And we learned that in this meeting with him, which we would have learned if he'd have come here and told all of us, so everybody would understand it. But what happens now is sometimes that juvenile is there for months before the state has a bed for them and takes them. And you have to go to the facility depending on the offense of what the juvenile does. And we don't have any control over that. The court doesn't have any control over that. It's what it is. But used to be, and I can see why the judge would be lower on the 25,000 instead of a $60,000 budget. Because before, that kid went right on to the state thing after 2 or 3 days. Well, now it's 2 or 3 months. And it's $200 a day or
But
$250.
you didn't know that. I didn't know that. Nobody
We
here
did
knew
not know
that
that.
until
We
you went
learned
to
that
that
in the
meeting.
meeting. But see, he's not had that to deal with either. The judge and the juvenile detention center, they have not had to deal with that either. This is new to them, just like it's new to us. They have always been able to, the kid goes right on. And now they're not going on. It's taken months and months and months for them to have a bed from the state. So it's different for him too. It's a new system for them also. So I
know Lance got
I
a
can give
response
grace
to
on
amend it.
that.
I just don't, I'm kind
And
of, I don't know what we.
I don't know that, I mean, this wouldn't have fixed the judge's thing. I just think it's
No,
stepping back, looking at all, there's 24 departments in the general fund.
Our intentions are well, and hopefully now with what is going on in the auditor's office, sending out everything every month, people's watching this, I hope. Hopefully we don't get bombarded, again. Hopefully we don't. I think that was a lot of it too, doing that. That was my fault, that they're watching things already.
And if we are bombarded and they're legitimate, good reasons that make complete sense, just like this one does, we have to adjust and roll with it. I mean, the world's changing. Things are changing. There's stuff that might come up in 3 months that we have nothing on our radar for.
That could happen.
It's life. It's your refrigerator breaking down and your car breaks down. It's stuff happens. I mean, and it does for them too. Every department, same thing, but they still need to tell us about it.
Okay, I agree.
So, yeah, I mean, the key is her having the information, and I think she could set the deadline. I think Friday's good. I wouldn't do it after Friday, before the Wednesday meeting. If she wants to do it earlier, that's fine. That gives us a weekend plus a couple of days to call and email people about stuff. So I'm good with that, but I think it's whatever she needs to get everything sent out to us, however much time, whatever's appropriate there. And the main thing is us having the information. But with that in mind, I'd like to amend the previously adopted motion and remove the meeting requirement for the department heads that are requesting this additional appropriation in the general fund under $10,000. Long-winded motion.
I'll never get it right. You want to amend the motion from January. Aim to,
I want to remove the meeting requirement.
Under 10,000.
If it's in the general fund and under $10,000.
under 10K.
This is a rule that you adopted in January by motion, is that right?
Yes,
My motion.
it was unanimous, so.
You're amending the rule. The prior motion has been voted on, so it probably can't be amended, but the rule is what you're amending. Okay.
So okay, so you're making a motion.
Anybody else got any more discussion?
Well, I guess.
You need
I'm
a
just
second before there's any discussion.
Trying to finish this one last thing, man. So
You need a second before there's any more discussion.
I just, I'm on the fence, but.
The president needs that in a second.
Just so we can talk about it. I'll second.
Okay, so I won't get in trouble on this. Lance made that motion about rescinding, making a motion
To change the rule.
to change the rule from January pertaining to having, can you remind me of writing here? Once you rescind the amendment requiring people here under 10,000, out of the general fund for under $10,000. We'll have to do that. Andy made second. We're open for discussion.
Okay, so we want to put it, the amendment's gonna say for $10,000.
$1,000.
So we have a situation where we end up with a department that goes through their complete budget for the year within 60 days. We don't want an explanation on that. Even if it's under 10,000. Whoops, we just spent our entire annual budget in less than 60 days and we don't know. And by the way, we appropriated funds for it and we still don't understand how did we go through an entire budget. But what you're saying is, well, if it's $10,000, it's $10,000. Doesn't matter the time frame. It could be January and they go, whoops, we're all out.
Oh, he's saying that we
But they
still,
got cut.
That's
he's
not
saying
easy.
that we, he said
That's not even close.
he said we still
I'm
need the
confused.
information.
Still has to have the information and we still vote on it. I'm just saying they don't have to stand here and tell us
They
that.
don't have to come to the meeting.
That's the only thing I'm leaving out. I mean, they're welcome to.
Did you miss my statement? I'm misunderstanding that. I said that. That's what I said. I misunderstand what you're saying. If you're saying that nobody has to come or they do have to come, please clarify, because I heard you say, it. I'm still confused. I'm confused.
If it's less than
I don't know what you're
10,000,
saying.
they send the appropriation to me, the description, whatever, and along with a detailed why, how come, what for.
Those come no matter what,
Those come,
just like they always
I
have.
mean, usually I just get the appropriation
Yes,
and then I print off transaction history or whatever you guys may ask for.
right.
So they need to send that to me. I'm gonna send it to you by Friday, so you guys
So
can.
you know exactly why.
Yeah, I don't know if, I mean, if we can come up with some kind of form, but they're gonna fill out that form just like they're gonna fill out the appropriation.
Yeah. That's, I mean,
So, you know, it's,
I don't have to have them. I know other counties use them. I don't have to have them. I just, whatever it takes for you to get all the information you need, I'll send those. That's all, the only thing that matters.
do you understand now?
Yeah, I did.
I mean,
I do. I just
I
asked.
mean, he's,
So I just looked at a couple different counties and they got basically forms on the government county website for additional additional appropriations, they just pull off. Like I said, some of them require a dollar threshold like we just talked about. Others don't. So, but yeah, it's just a form that I'm guessing they come up with themselves.
Most likely.
We can come up with whatever works best for us. But yeah, but I'll send that to the group. It's just an example. I think it was Johnson County.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So if I got 6 months left in the year and I know I'm gonna need 50,000 in additional appropriation, I'm just gonna ask for 9,000 for 6 months.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to come before council.
Yeah, there could be a loophole there.
After they're.
I'm not gonna figure that- I'm not gonna give anybody the
If it
idea.
comes, second request and it's. I don't know.
Annually.
Lance, I see what you're saying. I still like the idea. I mean, I understand what you're saying. If somebody can't make it, there's always somebody in place of them. You know, I get where you're at. And our heart was in the right place in January. It also was.
It still is.
And it still is. I mean, I get it. You know?
So I think you can still do it, but you have to make it to where it can only happen.
Yeah, you could send out 10,000 annually in appropriations. Other than that, you've got to present yourself.
Annually is the word.
You lower it to 2,000.
Well, we got a motion on the floor.
We got a second.
And I haven't heard. Lance, you want to read your motion out, then I'm, gonna- just so we get it right. All right, let's get this thing right.
My motion is to remove the meeting requirement for the department heads that are requesting the additional appropriations in the general fund if it's under $10,000.
He didn't say anything.
Motion's been
That's not what he
made.
motioned.
Okay, that was your motion. You seconded it.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of that motion, please raise your hands.
Or change it, right?
All
The volume part.
all opposed? Motion fails 1-6. All right. Okay, new business. Mr. Bond, you here?
I'm here.
I guess we'll wait for a good news casino update.
It's a little better. Did everybody get a?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The Gaming Commission released revenue reports for June today. And Belterra was up over last year in June. The county's revenue for May came out late last month. The county did worse than Belterra did in May, but that really is just because of tax brackets. They were a higher tax bracket in May of last year than they were this year, so the county was collecting more than they were this May. The big story is 2 weeks from now, you're gonna have 80% of your money in for the year, so you're gonna have a really good picture of what the rest of the year is gonna do. That's gonna answer a lot of questions.
Scary.
There's some big payments coming in, and that's gonna tell you probably how the rest of the year is gonna shake out. The other news, here in the last few weeks, Kentucky's got their rules finalized on sports wagering, September.
Yeah.
So that's gonna start over there. They'll be in the facilities and online. It'll have some impact in Indiana. We don't know how much yet.
Sports betting. We don't get that off that anyway, do we?
No, we don't.
But we just don't know what it's gonna do for
But-
turnout.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's right. For our revenue, sports betting that they're doing in Kentucky is gonna make a hit for Indiana. But it really, we don't get the money off the sport betting. Indiana State does, I guess. but
And you get
we
the people
don't.
that cross the bridge from Kentucky that come over here to do.
That might not do that. Interesting. So our annual projected local revenue income is 6.8, right?
Yeah, it dropped a little just because the May number was lower than
Yes.
expected, but the June number is probably gonna be a little bit higher when that comes in, here in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a little better.
So our revenue sharing, we based on 6 million, so we're not gonna be over by much, if at all. This is projected, and we're halfway through the year, and we've almost received 80% of our money, right?
Well, you will have in a couple of weeks.
In a couple of weeks, okay. All right,
Any questions?
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, John. Okay, next on the agenda is the I-9 issues. Okay. We also got emails on that. So I will kind of turn that over to, I guess, our HR director. You want to lay in, you got anything on that?
Well, I mean, I do, and I've worked with most of the department heads. I did send an email out. Part of one of the first orders of business I had, let's do a personnel file audit. I had IRCA in mind. It's always good to know where you stand with IRCA. It's a federal requirement. We all work, we've all got to do it. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just finding that if we've got 10 to 15% of them, they haven't been filled out correctly for the time frame that they were in, and then the time frame now. And some of them, personnel files, I just don't have access to. So I'm rolling department through department. I'd like to thank the treasurer and of course the prosecutor were the first ones to the ball game, and the Purdue Extension. Hey, let's get this right. But we're working through to make sure I've got the plan of corrections in place.
So we was notified by state or by law?
By Pat, and the real reason for, I mean, it's federal, and we're all supposed to do it. It keeps us in alignment with the federal government. A lot of our grants are based on federal compliance.
You checked it out, guideline when you get this done, time frame when you might have it done.
I'm going to be honest right now, that depends on the level of cooperation I get from each department head and elected official.
What do you recommend, Janine? I mean, if we're out of compliance with federal law, wouldn't it be as soon as possible?
As soon as possible, and I mean, that's what, and would you just talk about a little bit about like what's actually required? Like, we're not talking about a ton of paperwork here, right?
No, we are not talking about a ton of paperwork. I actually, in case anyone had any questions, I printed out the documentation from USCIS right here. So, you know, everyone can see that my plan of correction and the process I'm following is straight up by the book. What IRCA is, and then I have I-9 forms. Basically, the employee fills out page 1. I fill out page 2. And this is where I go on the hook liability wise. I'm going to sign down here. I fill out the second section. Yes, I have these documents, either one from list A or one from list B and C. Basically, passports work for list A. If you don't have your passport, I need one of these documents, a driver's license, state issued ID card, social security card, certified birth certificate, something.
So, yes,
Yes.
I'm familiar with that.
Do you know how many years that's been a rule that? you
Since
had to do that?
1986, ma'am.
So the reason why we're out of compliant maybe is because a lot of our employees, or several of our employees were before 1986? Is that why we don't have the I-9 on them?
75%, over 80%.
That's,
And I don't know.
I would hope.
they,
I mean, why?
honestly, they just weren't done, or they were done incorrectly because
Okay.
the person who filled out the form
We give anybody that.
lacked the knowledge
Well,
to actually know how to fill out the
I
form.
mean, anybody that has any employees at all, you know you have to do the I-9 form immediately.
Right.
When you hire somebody,
Yes.
the I-9
Yes.
has, you have, what, you have
Yes.
30 days or something like that?
3.
3? I think it was
30. Nope, you have 30 days. They're supposed to be, best practice is first day of employment. It's in
I
that
mean,
new
they gotta
hire
bring in all
packet.
that information before you can hire them. You're not even allowed to do that, but that's that information.
Whose
Yep.
responsibility would that have been way back then? So,
We didn't have an HR person then. Glad you're here.
Thank you. The Office of the Auditor, and honestly, part of me being here is, okay, it's best practice. I'd like to onboard every employee to make sure all of this paperwork is there. I have the new hire packets, it's all there. I'm just gonna grab everybody's information right then. We're compliant, we're not worried about it. It's backfilling right now. And I've looked through our files and our rosters and the hire date, the master template I'm building for ADP, to the best of my knowledge, we have no employees that were before 1986.
I don't remember filling out any I-9 form when I become a council person, since that's considered an employee of the county.
Because
So-
the county is an entity and you're receiving enumeration.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. That was why I brought these forms.
So we
And-
need to do this too.
Yes, yes, and it's not something that I believe is professional to do in a group setting like this because it does contain your personal documentation.
We can stop down anytime and,
You just stop down anytime. I'll come to you. It's just, I'm working with Anthony at the highway department. I'm going to them. I went to Ryan, just call me. I will be there in a flash. We just need quick copies and it's easy.
Okay.
But it is
And I
required.
appreciate you coming to us with, reminding us stuff, because we're not policy, we're fiscal. So if there needs to be a date put on this that the county is underneath, it's really the commissioners that have the opportunity to say, we're gonna have this finished in 30 days.
Yes, yes. And the amount of time that I can get it done, it depends solely on the cooperation I get from elected officials and department heads.
I'll be right over to see you.
Awesome, awesome.
There isn't any department head that can say that you can't, you don't have to do this. Is that correct, Pat?
It's federal law and then state law with the E-Verify system. So I mean, like, it's, at the end of the day, department heads have ultimate hiring and firing authority, and therefore it falls to them. But yes, I mean, like, everybody has to do.
With the induction of ADP, we will lose the paper forms, as I like to say. To me, paper's dangerous. We've got information out there, and yes, it's stored properly. That file cabinet is locked. I was not leaving yesterday until I know for a fact that this information is going to be safe and secured and aligned with legal requirements. ADP, someone onboards, they're doing their I-9 right then. I'm clicking a box saying, yes, they've been E-Verified. So the paper copies that could be concerned are gone. We can just print it straight out of ADP and,
When
remain
we
compliant.
go to ADP, then we won't have paper copies, because everybody,
Yep, we can print them from ADP to be compliant.
out there, then you can.
Yes, yes, there is a locked file cabinet. The auditor has a key, I have a key.
You have to keep personnel files 10 years, even after they, used to be 75 years old. They just
So that's the rundown on the I-9s. So, and I'll keep everyone copied in here. This is the progress I'm making. Right now, we have 3 departments that are completely compliant.
okay, well, council will work with you too. Get compliant, so. Okay. Anything
Thank
else?
you, everybody.
No,
Thank you.
no,
I ramble, I apologize.
No, you, just thank you for the information there, so, all right. Anything else on that? Okay, board reports. Mr. Chase, do you have anything for us?
Yes. Only thing is with the Lake 101 project, the new road are coming off, there's gonna be a meeting at Jeff Craig Middle School, August 3rd, 6 p.m. If anybody wants to go, it's a presentation that day. Oh, I got to.
Do they have the route figured out yet?
Well, they're still working.
Okay.
A rough sketch.
If they got a rough one, did they have it on that meeting, you think?
That's down at the middle school. Oh, I
Right.
thought I saw that. Cafeteria. I thought I saw that paper. Yeah. Put it next. All right.
Right.
Okay. Lisa.
Emergency management, we met on June 22nd. It wasn't in July, to let you know. They've done several trainings. They had a ground management, fire ground management training. It had 11 people show up for that. That was at the tech building. They also did one at the state fire marshal's office. June 1st, they only had 3 show up for that. They did an extradition training with Switzerland County and Ohio County did it together on June the 10th. I saw things on Facebook about that one. They do have the live training being presented for hazard control. They're doing some training for the U.S. Coast Guard for the Ohio Valley sector on June 21st. They did that at the tech building also. So a lot of the EMS is just training things for the people that we have in the EMS. He did mention that there's a need for new AEDs that they need replaced. A lot of them are outdated. They'd gotten a grant before to get those before, but he was, I didn't write down a number to how much the cost of those were. I don't know how much they are each, but they have them in the schools, they have them in the fire departments, and they have them around, but all the ones that he'd gotten from a grant before are reaching their expiration date. So that's something that's gonna have to be needed again. The hazard mitigation plan, which the commissioners probably have heard about this, is almost finished. And, you have to pay for that first, then you get reimbursed for it. I think there's $18,000 grant for that. That was a really interesting meeting, by the way. He did get turned down for 2 grants. He does grants for the B.B. Switzerland Foundation and the Community Foundation on a regular basis.
Tom.
Yeah, Tom does, yeah.
Mhm.
And, he was turned down for those. His salary reimbursement is for the EMA director has been finalized through the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. So that's it.
Thank you, man. Lance? you got anything?
Recycling district had a management change. Aaron Bell, who's been the director there for like 18 years, he's retiring next month. So Christy DeVol is going to be the new director, and Emily Wolf is going to be the new assistant director. All Switzerland County people, so it's in good hands.
There we go.
Awesome. Next meeting's August 16th.
Well, I did have our Chief Association meeting, 27th of June. I'm gonna be brief. Tom Moore was there too. A lot of training and all that. He is all about training and this and that. Jeff Darling they talked about fire prevention week, that, they gotta get ready for all that. I think that's in September, and they did pass out the checks, so I'm keeping mine short and sweet. So,
Mine, we didn't need.
no school now.
Yeah.
But hey, they're
The
getting
building's coming along.
Yeah,
coming along really well, Okay,
I'm talking to the tour next month.
it's gonna really look nice.
They're gonna do a tour next month.
I said, I'm gonna talk them into it.
Oh,
I guess we can probably get in on board if anybody wants,
Yeah.
want me to set something up.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
It would.
Love it.
Okay, Matt, Mike,
So we do have our first meeting coming up, and I'm gonna defer to be in by the rules of the handbook that we're operating underneath now, why we're having that.
Yes, I feel that with the ADP, with the ADP implementation, it's hard to go tell a payroll company, set our rules up this way. Oh, wait, they can change it any minute before you implement in October. And I feel like all this, a cloud is hanging over. So it's just time to come together, collaborate, and the personnel committee needs to start talking. Needs to start talking. It'll of course be posted appropriately. Everything will be done.
Is that a public access meeting? I know I am. So we do have to put that as a public access meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
okay. That's it. You guys? Okay. All right. Okay. We're not done yet. Just I want to double check again, we got the budget meetings coming up. Hopefully, to get the agenda together. I think we probably ought to do commissioners though first thing, if we could, on the budget meeting. Thursday,
The meeting on
special-
The 10th.
Yeah, on the 10th, and I'll let you set up
I'm just having a lot of people, they're asking what they base their salaries on.
Another
34
reason for the
hours,
personnel committee to start meeting.
36, 40, what's it gonna be next year?
What's that?
How many hours everybody's gonna be working?
So we'll have our normal August meeting on the 9th, budget's on the 10th, right?
Yes.
Our regular meeting be on Wednesday, be the second Wednesday. We get the calendar.
And it'll be on the-
I thought it was the 10th, Mike,
It is the 10th.
just the
The
10th.
9th
Budget.
is the regular meeting on Wednesday and the 10th is Thursday.
I'm gonna drag it out all day.
Brad, how do we give an answer to that if we have open litigation?
I just told them to put, if they're asking for a raise, to put, this is for 34, this is for 40.
I don't know.
Can we do that?
You guys we passed, your salary ordinance is just a straight salary ordinance. Like it doesn't, the ordinance just says how much each person is going to get paid.
But that's based on 34 hours a week.
Based on however you're calculating.
So that's under the old employee handbook, right?
That's always confusing in the budget sheets when anybody puts any raises on their employees. I thought we asked them not
Yeah,
actually.
and I thought, yeah, don't put in any raises right there, but now I guess what you're saying, now they are.
They always
I thought
ask
they got
for
their-
it.
It always happens
Yeah, they always have asked for, it, and then we advertise more. It doesn't,
for
they,
next year.
it's usually a percentage, but everybody asks for different percentages.
Yeah,
And then when we advertise it, we always advertise with the larger amount, just to see if it'll balance out. And then sometimes we can't do the percentage of a raise that we want to do because we can't afford it. But it's always been added in there.
don't we just throw a number out, say like 3%, throw 3% on there and then just be done with it?
There's some of them gonna do 5, some of them gonna do 10, some of them's gonna do more. There's gonna be
Are
quite
they
a,
doing it on 34 hours?
there's gonna be quite a bit of a change on the judges.
But
I
you're
mean,
requesting,
that's their question.
How do
to
we
me.
get, how do we get,
but you're requesting it both ways, you're saying.
I didn't know what to tell them. I told them I would ask today and tomorrow. 'cause I don't know.
an hourly rate or
No, they told
It's a yearly
For the year.
rate, right?
I mean, total for the year,
It's yearly,
what's
right.
in your
So
ordinance.
if somebody makes $40,000.
It's gonna be a different hourly rate based on whether you're working 34 or 40, right?
It's not an hourly rate, though. It's a salary rate.
Exactly. So,
Annual, so
Well, I
if they're getting
understand the question.
40,000, is that 40,000 based on 40 hours a week or 34?
It doesn't.
That's the question that they're asking.
the answer to that's, yeah, it's based on 34 or 40. Just,
Based on, yeah, somewhat.
Yeah, and our number is, the maximum is this much money.
Right, I
It
mean.
doesn't matter
it's
to us how
not-
many hours is in it. Ours is, your rate is at this much money. It doesn't matter to us how much, of what the hour part is. It has to do with the running of the courthouse, but
I'm asking
Yeah.
because I was asked, so,
yeah.
you know, just,
I don't want to
Either
speak out
not
of
put raises
turn.
in there or we do some kind of set raise on there. It's not confusing. I'll get it.
I still have, okay,
I'm fine
So
with that, do up to 3, let's say, or something like that.
3% all.
I mean, can we do that? So we're not seeing 5, 10%
I
raises.
mean, you can. I mean, I can send out an email and say, we're doing salaries. Don't ask for any more than 3,
3%, yeah.
Yeah.
Andy said.
It's,
It's
I mean, I don't care.
I think
I
we should
can
do
do whatever, but.
You do have to look at them, they are all over the place.
It's all over the place. It never makes any sense on the budget sheets because they're all over.
that's why you'll be here, make sure we look right.
Putting that on me?
Yeah, I'm putting the budget on you, young man. So, that's all, so anyway, so
I just got beaten 1-6 earlier. Did you see that?
I saw it. So, okay,
So-
and I got one more question on the budget meetings. Should we have them on Facebook now? I mean, the budget meetings, should they not be live? I don't know. We never have before.
No,
I mean,
it's
but,
public access?
Uh,
It does say public access.
well, anybody can come if they want
Yeah.
to, but,
That's, but
yeah, but
as you said, with my
the
rules
law
state-
says you have to put the meeting on Facebook anyway.
Yeah. they
We
still
just
got
do
that.
it. Just do it, but there's
I
no,
mean,
there's no law that says you have to publicly show the meeting. Anybody can come to the budget meeting if they want to.
You advertise that.
well, it will be
Yeah,
advertised.
it's
It will be advertised all that as far as what we're doing. But I mean, I'm just kind of dotting i's and crossing t's or trying to,
I don't care if it's,
I mean, it's just.
I don't care if it's on. See, there may be shut-ins that want to watch. I don't. Give them the opportunity. to watch.
I don't know.
I don't care either.
It's thoughts.
Necessary, but.
I'm sorry.
That'd be some boring TV. So
It would.
God,
be. I mean, I just, if we don't have to, it's no big deal.
I don't think we have to, but if someone wants to, I'm calling it. Whatever it is.
I mean, it's,
Back your gap and say we're doing, say we're.
If I can speak out of turn, I'm sorry, Pat and I are talking, and I have a question, and I've had this question since, I mean, we're not talking about an hourly rate, we're talking about employees whom are salary non-exempt. If you give the duties test to a lot of these they are salary non-exempt. They're getting paid a salary. It doesn't say, for 34 hours, for 40 hours, the county guidelines apply. So the hourly rate, there's no difference because they're just salary non-exempt. And if the position passes the duties test, for example, mine, I passed the duties test, I'm an exempt employee, then that's it. So I don't understand why or maybe I'd just like clarification why there's this 34, 40 hours salary non-exempt, because it's a salary ordinance, we're paid by salary, so.
I think you have to be a little bit careful because you do have employees that are 40 hours and, get comp time today, ultimately will get overtime. I don't know if
They're not
anybody in the
exempt.
courthouse, I don't know if any of those people are like comp time employees. If they're not, then she's right, they're salary, not
Non-exempt,
percent.
Some
so,
of them are. Some of them get comp time in the courthouse.
So,
meaning they do qualify for those because they're non-exempt.
so then they are being paid an hourly rate.
Based on the comp. I mean, the comp time is, yeah, reset.
Sure.
I didn't mean to speak out of turn and cause you confusion, I'm just, yeah.
I agree with you.
And I really just feel like every position should be given a duties test. I don't think it ever has, I don't.
Is that your recommendation?
If the attorney agrees, yes.
Thanks.
No, I mean, the duties
There it
test, the FLSA outlines the duties, and what a position is considered, what does this position meet these criteria? Is it exempt or non-exempt? The minimum paid per week for a salary non-exempt employee is $684, according to the FLSA. So I just feel like the position should be given a duties test at some point. That's all. I like to be compliant with the FLSA. That's another federal one that, it's federal. A lot of our grants, it's just good. It's good practice.
All right.
I have one thing, I was told to ask, that I need to ask for your white binders back. If you guys have them.
Yes,
Oh, so you got to buy new ones to put the new stuff in? Okay. Thought you could bring
I
them
can
in.
bring mine down. You want them empty, you don't want them filled up.
No, I don't need
All right.
all that stuff, no.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I mean, I'm,
Okay, so much for the fun stuff. Okay, we'll take care of it, yeah, we'll get those sheets there.
saving $1.
That's no problem.
I'm good with that.
Okay, anything else from anybody?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll ask you a question.
Oh,
No,
well,
never mind.
You said 85, but I didn't know if you was talking.
you know what, and.
What you got, James?
So, I guess this question for you, Pat. Does the meeting that the members of council had with the judge qualify as a meeting under open door law?
No.
No.
No, that was, because there was not a quorum it wasn't a quorum, it wasn't a committee. So the difference between like the personnel advisory committee is that that's a set committee that is set up by two different branches for the purposes of actually carrying out part of those branches' functions. This wasn't, it was, because it was less than.
That committee is established by ordinance, which is why it qualifies.
Right.
So my next question is, if that meeting doesn't qualify as a meeting under open door law, how does it qualify as a meeting for purposes of issuing a mandate?
It's a good question. And so the rule that I read out earlier is from Trial Rule 60.5. And this is all the rule says. Prior to issuing the order, the court shall meet with the mandated party to demonstrate the need for said funds. And the question you're asking is exactly one of the questions I was asking, which what does it mean to meet with the party? I think that there's an argument to be had that in order to meet with the council, that the council would have to have a majority, to be the party. The problem is that Trial Rule 60.5 hasn't, there's a number of cases that the Indiana Court of Appeals has reviewed Trial Rule 60.5, and primarily what they focus on are the merits, meaning like whether or not what the trial court judge was asking for was necessary and appropriate, or the other issue that is often focused on is the attorney's fees. But the one that's not focused on very often is the meeting requirement. There was, in fact, only a couple of cases that I could find that specifically kind of drilled down on what does it qualify as a meeting. And while the Supreme Court did in one case say it must be shown that the regular judge first met with the council and showed his need for the funds and requested that they be furnished out of the county treasury, that sounds like, oh, that actually like means a meeting, like calling a meeting, like, with the council. But there was another case.
Would you follow the guidelines of open law?
Which would absolutely fall under those guidelines, yes. But there was another case where what happened was the trial court issued basically just a letter, put it all in writing, kind of put a package together and sent that to the council. And the council ended up having part of their president actually sent a letter back, and there was some negotiation back and forth, but there was never a meeting. Like they never actually happened to be in the same place at the same time. And in that case, the special judge determined that the spirit of the rule had still been met. And the Supreme Court said that they agreed and said that the intention of the meeting requirement was to encourage settlement and assure that the parties understood each other's position and interests, and that the Supreme Court held that the correspondence between the parties was sufficient for that purpose, and specifically held the lack of an actual face-to-face meeting prior to the issue of a mandate order does not justify reversal in the case. So based on that, I mean, like what qualifies as a meeting, which is your original question, is that what the Supreme Court has said is that a meeting qualifies as sufficient information for the parties to understand each other's positions and sufficient to encourage settlement. But outside of that, we don't really have a lot of direction from the courts or from the legislature of what's required. Actually, it'll just be the courts. The legislature has nothing to do with this. The trial rules are set up by the Indiana Supreme Court. So. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So that the.
Yeah, sure.
So that's not an IC, that's the Supreme Court saying that's the rule, but they didn't clarify what the rule really was.
So the trial rules come into play. So the legislature like offsets it with it. But I mean, what the Supreme Court only weighs in when cases actually rise up to their attention. All mandate orders are reviewed by the Indiana Supreme Court, but what it would require is a situation where there wasn't a meeting and where one of the parties was arguing, hey, we didn't have the meeting, and then the Supreme Court would actually have to have a case in front of it to rule to weigh in. So like unlike the legislature who can think about hypothetical situations and create rules, based on hypotheticals, the Supreme Court only rules on the cases that are presented.
I'd go back just one real, because we stepped over it. I asked if we can put the audio out onto the county website so people could hear that meeting. I mean, I think we owe it to the taxpayers for that, because we've been holding off to have somebody represent what the issues were. So at the very least, I mean, if I have to motion for it, I will, but it's out there, it's public.
Would it be legal to put that out?
No, we don't have it.
We don't want.
We don't have it.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the.
You can go and get an app
You have
for
a
it.
copy?
Yeah, we have a copy of it.
Let's
We
put it
did
out there so
public
that-
Hearing, so.
Let's put it up.
Public information. They give you a motion, you put it out there.
I mean, I just don't.
It's definitely part of the public record. In fact, one of the things I think that the judge mentioned in asking for the meeting was that he wanted it in the courtroom so that way it could be recorded and made part of the record of the mandate order. The mandate order is public record as well. I mean, there's a case on the docket that is in the mandate order. That's a public record as well. So I mean, I agree. I think it's a public record.
So you'll put it out
Website.
Do we need a motion? I thought I got.
We've done
I
some.
mean, you put it out there just like you would the minutes, right? I mean, for people to view.
But they have to have a certain app to listen to it when they.
I don't
Sure,
know
you
why
can
they would have to
take
have
the
an
app
app.
and
I don't know what app.
Just put it out there. So you can copy it.
Because it's proprietary audio. I mean, because it was recorded on a specific audio system, you have to have an app that interprets it. But I mean, it's an available app.
Yeah. Okay. If somebody really wanted to hear it, they could.
Okay.
I'm sure with all the file configuration and IT, I mean, there has to be a way.
That's another thing for you. People, please. Okay.
You get two phones, you can play it on one.
No.
We'll need to hear it.
Yeah, I don't want to rehash it, to be quite honest. All right, is there anything else from anybody else in the audience here? Okay. I'm gonna revert back to the motion you made.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Okay, Andy made a second. All in favor of adjournment, please raise your hands. Right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.
We'll see you on